Beyond the séances and the fight for equal rights, this town holds another secret, a form of spirit communication that's so visual, so tangible, it literally hangs in a museum. After the rappings of the Fox sisters opened the floodgates of spirit communication in 1848, the methods evolved. It wasn't just about knocks on a wall anymore. We're talking about automatic writing, slate writing, and something even more astounding, precipitated spirit paintings. What if I told you that some spirits decided talking wasn't enough? They wanted to show off their artistic skills too. Welcome to the world of precipitated spirit paintings. And before you ask, no, it doesn't mean that the spirits got caught in a rainstorm. Precipitated means the portraits literally materialized on blank canvas during séances, created by invisible hands in minutes, not months, minutes. We're talking full-color photorealistic portraits that would make Renaissance masters weep with envy. And here's the kicker. They were painted by people who were already dead. The spirits, it seemed, were tired of just texting from beyond and decided to start sending selfies. So how exactly does spirit painting work? According to multiple eyewitnesses' accounts from the 1890s through 1920s, the process was both mesmerizing and completely impossible. Picture this. A medium enters a trance state in front of a blank, stretched canvas. Sometimes in broad daylight, sometimes in dimly lit rooms, but always with multiple witnesses present. Shadows begin appearing on the canvas, faint at first, like someone sketching with an invisible charcoal. Then colors start bleeding through, as if the canvas itself is becoming a developing photograph. The idea behind precipitation is that the spirit world can manipulate matter. They can draw on the energy in the room, the energy of the sitters, the medium's own power, and use it to bring an image into physical existence. It's a collaboration between two worlds, basically the ultimate artistic partnership where one half of the team happens to be deceased. But here's what separates this from any known artistic technique. There were no brushes, no palette, no paint pots, and often no physical contact with the canvas at all. The portrait simply appeared. In 15 minutes to 2 hours, spirits were completing artwork that professional artists said should have taken weeks. In a world of deep fakes and digital tricks, there's something profoundly real about this. It's raw, it's mysterious, and hanging up for display all around Lilydale, daring you to explain it away. Meet the queens of spirit art, the Bang sisters, Elizabeth and May. These Chicago-born mediums didn't just talk to dead people. They gave them a creative outlet and apparently ran the afterlife's most exclusive art studio. From their base in Lilydale, they produce hundreds of these mysterious paintings for clients who traveled from all around the world. The sisters claim their spirit guide, Captain W. Stevens, helped coordinate the artistic sessions from beyond. And before you think this was some elaborate Victorian con game, consider this. Chicago police detectives investigated them multiple times for fraud. The conclusion? No evidence of trickery whatsoever. Detective Sergeant George Trafton, described as one of the shrewdest investigators on the force, literally tore their house apart looking for hidden panels, secret paint supplies, or any method of deception. He found nothing. His official report stated there were no signs of trickery in their house or furniture. Working along the Bang sisters were the Campbell brothers, Alan Campbell and Charles Shrouds. These weren't just your typical starving artists eating ramen noodles. They were successful businessmen who claimed their spirit guide, Azor the Helper, directed their supernatural art sessions from his previous life as a Babylonian priest. The Campbell brothers had a different approach. They used what they called cabinets, enclosed spaces where the mediums would sit with a blank canvas. Audiences of up to 300 people would watch as paintings materialized behind a thin curtain, appearing like Polaroid photographs developing in reverse. What made their work especially compelling was the precision. They painted historical figures like Napoleon and Abraham Lincoln with photographic accuracy. This was decades before color photography was widely available. How do you paint a historically accurate portrait of someone you've never seen, using techniques that don't exist? Here's where the story goes from mysterious to mind-bending. In 1941, the Eastman Kodak Company, the people who basically invented modern photography, agreed to scientifically analyze one of these paintings. They brought out every technique available: X-rays, infrared light, ultraviolet examination, chemical analysis. Their conclusion after exhaustive testing: they had absolutely no idea what the paint medium was. It wasn't oil, wasn't watercolor, wasn't pastel, charcoal, or any known artistic substance. Basically, the spirits were using art supplies that don't exist in our reality. The consistency of dust on a butterfly's wings, incredibly delicate, yet these paintings have remained vibrant for over a century. Some of them, when examined during restoration in 2003, were still damp after more than 100 years. Still damp. But here's the part that made me question everything I thought I knew about reality. In 2003, Lilydale historian Ron Nagy had a brilliant idea that would make CSI investigators jealous. He took high-resolution digital photos of the eyes in the paintings and showed them to a professional iridologist, someone who can diagnose health conditions by examining the iris. The iridologist had no idea whose eyes she was analyzing. For the Lincoln painting, she identified mercury poisoning, digestive problems, liver dysfunction, and signs of severe depression and stress. Historical records show Lincoln took mercury-based medications for depression and had to stop because they made him violently ill. He also suffered from what we now recognize as clinical depression. For Mrs. Caldwell's portrait, the analysis revealed thyroid issues, kidney problems, and several other specific medical conditions. There's no way the Campbell brothers could have known these intimate health details about people they'd never met, using diagnostic techniques that wouldn't be invented for another century. The spirits weren't just painting pretty pictures. They were encoding medical information that wouldn't be discovered for decades. But the most mystical thing I experienced in Lilydale wasn't in a reading or a séance. It's right here, in this painting. The media consultant who's been showing me around this amazing town, my guide Joanne Mansfield, bears an unbelievable striking resemblance to this very woman, Mrs. Caldwell, a former member of Lilydale. It's probably just coincidence, but in a place where people believe in reincarnation and souls returning to complete unfinished work, you have to wonder, could Joanne have been drawn back to Lilydale to continue a spiritual mission? Sometimes the most profound mysteries are hiding in plain sight, and sometimes the people we meet aren't meeting us for the first time. Sometimes they're continuing conversations that started lifetimes ago. Of course, not everyone was buying what the spirit artists were selling. Religious leaders called it demonic. Scientists dismissed it as elaborate fraud. Professional magicians offered cash rewards to anyone who could replicate the phenomenon. But here's what's fascinating. Many of the attempts to debunk these paintings actually strengthen the case for their authenticity. When you have multiple police investigations, scientific analysis, and hundreds of witnesses all reaching the same conclusion, that if this was fraud, it was fraud beyond human capability, you start to wonder if maybe, just maybe, we're dealing with something genuinely supernatural. The opposition wasn't just about skepticism. It was about fear. Fear of what these paintings represented. If consciousness really survives death, if love really is stronger than the grave, if creativity really transcends physical existence, then everything we think we know about life and death needs to be reconsidered. And honestly, that's terrifying for people who like their reality nice and predictable. This isn't a new concept, by the way. Mediums have been around for millennia, even if they weren't always called that. They were the oracles and seers in ancient Greece, and in Rome, the interpreters of the gods. In the Far East, they were the augurs and the diviners communicating with ancestors. Even the Bible gives a detailed shout-out to a medium in Endor, who holds a séance for King Saul. She used clairvoyance, seeing spirits in her mind, to connect him with the prophet Samuel. The desire to connect across the veil is hardwired into human history. What makes Lilydale special is that they turned it into an art form, literally. Standing among those mysterious masterpieces, I was struck by a profound thought. In our age of digital art and artificial intelligence, we think we're witnessing the cutting edge of creativity. But what if the most advanced artists aren't using computers or algorithms? What if they're not even alive? These paintings challenge everything we think we know about art, death, and the nature of reality itself. They suggest that love doesn't end where the heart stops beating, that creativity transcends physical existence, and that the greatest masterpieces might be painted by hands we cannot see. In a world where we can stream movies from space and carry supercomputers in our pockets, the idea of spirits creating art might seem quaint. But maybe the most sophisticated technology isn't silicon and circuits, it's consciousness itself, external and unstoppable, finding ways to reach across the veil and remind us that death is not the end of our story. My journey through Lilydale has taken me from the original spirit wrappings that started it all, through the revolutionary women who found their voices there, to these impossible paintings that hang like windows into another world. What I've discovered is that this little community on Casadega Lake isn't just a spiritual destination. It's a laboratory for exploring the biggest questions humans have ever asked. What happens when we die? Do we continue? Can love transcend death? The Fox sisters said yes with their raps. Susan B. Anthony and the suffragists said yes with their fight for equality that continued beyond the grave. Mae West said yes with her fabulous pursuit of enlightenment. And these spirit artists, they're saying yes with brushstrokes we can't explain, using paint that doesn't exist, creating beauty that defies every law of physics we know. In Lilydale, the spirits aren't just speaking from beyond. They're painting their way back into our world, one mysterious masterpiece at a time. They're showing us that consciousness might be the ultimate technology, that creativity is eternal, and that the most important conversation we'll ever have might be with people who are no longer, technically, people. As my investigation into Lilydale comes to an end, I'm left with more questions than answers. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the real gift of this place isn't certainty, it's possibility. The possibility that death is just a change of address, that love really is forever, and that somewhere beyond the veil, our departed loved ones are still creating, still caring, still finding ways to reach across the infinite to touch our hearts. And honestly, in a world that can often feel cold and disconnected, that possibility feels pretty damn magical.